Good morning. This is an interactive session. Come on. Well, warm welcome to the Times Centre. Welcome back, as David said, if you were here yesterday. And welcome to day 2 of the first year of ISPA's second century. How good does that sound? And today is sold out. So warm welcome. In the next 2 hours, we're going to hear 10 great projects from China, from Australia and Indonesia, from South Africa and the UK, from Switzerland, Canada, and here in the US. But before we start this year's presentations, we're going to go back a year to a project that was pitched on this stage at this time last year. Canada's Volcano Theatre pitched a new Canadian and US joint collaborative version of Scott Joplin's only opera, Treemonisha, which for many people is the absolute gem of his output. And in the past year, that's moved on a step, creating this new version of an almost unknown musical gem. So before we start this year's pitches, we're going to hear a short extract from this new version of Scott Joplin's only opera, Treemonisha, which has a new libretto by the playwright Leah Simone Bowen, and the composer and arranger of this version are Janina Norpoth and Jessie Montgomery. So now, will you welcome to the stage the soloist, Nima Bickersteth, and the conductor, Leslie Dunham. So we start here in New York with a new multidisciplinary project in development by the great composer and choreographer Meredith Monk, which sets itself the modest task of contemplating life in relation to the universe. Cellular Songs is produced by the House Foundation for the Arts, and it premieres this March, 2 months' time, performed by Meredith Monk and 4 women of her amazing vocal ensemble just across the river at BAM. And here to present it are, for the House Foundation for the Arts, the Executive Director, Kirsten Kapustik, and the Projects Director, Peter Shosholi.
Hi, everyone. We're really excited to be here today to share with you more information about Meredith Monk's newest work, Cellular Songs. My name is Kirsten Kapustik. I'm the Executive Director of the House Foundation for the Arts. It's a nonprofit that Meredith founded about 50 years ago to support her work.
I'm Peter Shosholi. I'm Projects Director for Meredith Monk and Vocal Ensemble. Meredith herself is currently in New Mexico on retreat and continued development for the new work.
Meredith, as many of you may know, is a composer, singer, director, choreographer, filmmaker, and creator of new opera, music theater works, films, and installations. So she really does it all. She is considered one of the most influential artists of our time and is a pioneer of what is called extended vocal technique and interdisciplinary performance. Meredith is the recipient of such prestigious awards as the 2015 National Medal of Honor for the Arts from President Obama, composer in residence at Carnegie Hall for the 2014-2015 season, and the 2017 Dorothy and Lillian Gish Award. Some of Meredith's most seminal works include Atlas from 1993 and Quarry from 1976, which we are currently working on now to produce with a new cast for 2020. Meredith has been making work for more than 50 years and is currently experiencing a period of renaissance in both her new and old work. At 75 years old, she is still performing lead roles in her work, including this one, Cellular Songs.
So as mentioned, Cellular Songs is Meredith's newest music theater piece, and it includes some of her most adventurous and daring vocal music to date. In her quintessential style, it also was woven together with movement, instrumental music, light, and film. For this work, she deliberately chose to work with the 4 other women from her acclaimed vocal ensemble, saying that she felt it was important in this patriarchal society and time in our world to create a prototype of cooperation and workmanship, and that's something you definitely see and hear in the forms that she has made. The work is both playful and contemplative, with moments that excite, moments that shimmer, moments that ground. And at this point in time, we think it's extremely exciting to be part of Meredith's ongoing discovery and innovation. One of the things your audiences can expect with this work is an opportunity to slow down and to experience an antidote to the mass distraction of our predominant culture. Meredith's work offers more of a poetic space of wonder, of mystery and openness, which is often described as being meditative, a space which allows each individual to have their own experience and that encourages us both to engage and expand our perceptions. She also creates very immersive environments within each space that she works in. Audiences will encounter a video installation in the lobby of each theater where the work will be performed. Upon entering the theater, they will hear a surround sound music installation as a preset, followed by the work itself, which welcomes audiences in as the music and movement unfold in ways that are both sculptural and architectural. As an added element, we're happy to offer workshops, panel discussions, and post-show Q&As. We'd now like to show you some video excerpts of a work in progress that was shown this June of 2017 at the visual artist Jim Hodges' converted warehouse in Queens, New York.
a happy woman. Oh, I'm a happy woman, I'm a happy woman. Oh, I'm a happy woman, I'm a happy woman. Oh, I'm a happy woman, I'm a happy woman. Oh, I'm a happy woman, I'm a happy woman. Oh, I'm a happy woman, I'm a happy woman. Oh, I'm a happy woman, I'm a happy woman. Oh, I'm a hungry woman, I'm a hungry woman. Oh, I'm a hungry woman, I'm a hungry woman. Oh, I'm a hungry woman, I'm a hungry woman. Oh, I'm a hungry woman, I'm a hungry woman. Oh, I'm a hungry woman, I'm a hungry woman. Ha 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 ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha.
Cellular Songs will premiere at BAM in March, and we're really excited to be on the cover of the BAM brochure this year. We are also going to be in spring of 2019 at Cranert, Stanford Live, and UCLA. We're looking for additional touring partners and plan to tour this work through 2020. And our contact information is right there on this next slide. Please see us after the program downstairs. I'd be happy to talk with you further about Cellular Songs. And we also really hope to see you at BAM in March. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So you have the premiere date, but you're all still looking for co-commissioning partners?
If someone wants to jump on, we'd be happy to accept that.
Brilliant. Have you yet got any other specific performances planned beyond the premiere, places where people could see it?
Yes, so Cranert, spring of 2019 will be Cranert, UCLA, and Stanford. And then hopefully we have some other options in the fall of 2018 as well.
You say in the handout, you talk about a site-specific video installation for this piece. Can you just say a little bit about that, what it is, how it's involved, and particularly what kind of space you'd want to play it in?
Oh, sure. So it's a stationary video installation that would be crafted specifically for the lobbies of each theater. And right now it's in development, but we think that it will be 5 iPads in a circle formation. Various parts of the performers and some vocal sound also will be part of that.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Other questions? Now, come on, I don't believe this. You said everything you could possibly say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up is a project from Australia's Polyglot Theatre and Indonesia's PAPERMOON Puppet Theatre. CERITA ANAK, which means Child's Song, is a theatre project for young audiences. It premiered in Melbourne last March, and it draws its inspiration from the seafaring history off the Indonesian coast. It's actually a true story of a small boy's arrival in Australia, and the audience takes part in the performance, as it were, by being passengers on the boat. And here to present it to you is the Executive Director and the Co-CEO of Polyglot Theatre, Viv Rossman.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, everyone. I'm also a proud ISPA Fellow, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity today. I would like to pay my respects to the Lenape people whose traditional lands we are meeting on. CERITA ANAK, or Child's Story, is a new work for young children aged 2 to 7 years old, a collaboration from the Asia-Pacific region between Polyglot Theatre and Indonesia's PAPERMOON Puppet Theatre. Polyglot is Australia's leading creator of participatory theatre experiences for children and their families. Our work ranges from intimate, immersive theatre productions to large-scale installations in public spaces, and we work in contexts as diverse as schools, football clubs, and the world's leading art centres and festivals. This is our second major collaboration with PAPERMOON, a relationship which continues to be an incredibly rich artistic and cultural exchange for our companies. To introduce PAPERMOON, could we play the first short video, please?
Hello everyone, my name is Ria. I'm the founder and co-artistic director of PAPERMOON Puppet Theatre from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. PAPERMOON is a group of people who are doing experiments about puppetry. So we are doing lots of experiments of puppetry in Indonesia. And usually not just only making performances, but we also making workshops and also making visual arts installation. And every 2 years we also initiate an international Biennale Puppet Festival in Yogyakarta.
CERITA ANAK was developed over a 2-year period, the Australian team travelling to Indonesia and the Indonesian team to Melbourne, several times in each direction. The work premiered in early 2017 at Arts Centre Melbourne during its inaugural Asia-Pacific Triennial of Performing Arts. Before I say any more, I'd like to show you some footage of the work. Could we play the second video, please? All of Polyglot's work is developed with the input of children from the earliest stage. As part of one research session in Melbourne, the kids were all asked to draw boats. One small boy's drawing stood out, and his story became key in the dramaturgy of CERITA ANAK. Through his drawing, the boy described his experience as an asylum seeker making the extremely dangerous journey to Australia. Our artists were deeply affected by the fact that despite this child's traumatic experience, he was completely immersed in the creative task at hand. And he gave us a child's perspective on a story we usually only see through an adult and often political lens. Children's ability to live for the present day and to find fun and imaginative play wherever they are, despite their circumstances or history, makes a strong premise for a lively and magical performance within a serious reality. As with all polyglot productions, children and adults are offered a very different emotional journey through the work. While our young audiences experience a sense of theatrical urgency and danger at times, their overall experience is one of a great adventure with an optimistic ending, undertaken with a parent close at hand for support. For adults, the experience is immediately and emotionally evocative of the images we've seen too often of refugee families, of parents trying to protect their children on overcrowded boats, images of desperation and of hope. The next stop for this work is the Perth International Arts Festival in February, and for those of you attending APAM in Brisbane, CERITA is on at the end of that week, so it's possible to whiz across to Perth to see it. A final point of interest for presenters, CERITA ANAK is a companion piece to another new polyglot work called Boats. Boats is a colourful, highly physical outdoor work which can be presented for free for a large audience, and it recently made its international debut at the Esplanade in Singapore. I'd like to mention that in North America, Polyglot is represented by Laura Colby from LC Management, and Laura and I will both be at the ProX table after the pitch. Please come say hello if you'd like to know more about this work or any of Polyglot's productions. Thank you very much.
So it's essentially for family and young people audience. Is there a minimum age of audience you think would work for this? I'm thinking of some of the issues around the crossing.
We recommend 2 as the lower age limit. Initially, we made this work for 2 to 5-year-olds, but we had a number of older siblings come along who we found were equally engaged. So we now suggest 2 to 7 as the optimum age group.
And what sort of space, what would be your ideal space for this? It's a little bit hard to tell from that video what kind of space it was in.
Ideally in a studio-style space, like a black box theatre or even a gallery space. It requires around 14 by 12 metres, which is 25 by 39 feet, and a height of 5.5 metres or 18 feet. Reasonably flexible. It could also sit on the stage of a large theatre, potentially.
And the audience is in the round, or is it end on?
The audience is in it. So they are in the middle of the space, and they spend most of the show in the boat that you saw. There's also the potential, depending on the space, for there to be an additional observing audience of adults. So in a venue with a mezzanine, for example, there could be another layer of audience who are watching from outside the boat.
And you're one of the 2 presenters this morning who, under the fee section, it says, information on a request. Can you give some guidance to the sort of...
Well, I say that because the answer, of course, is it depends. It depends where in the world you are, it depends where in the world we are. There are a lot of variables, and I never like to put a number on something without having a conversation. But if you're interested, please come have a chat, and I can very quickly give you some numbers that will help with your decision-making.
Thanks. Did anybody see the premiere in Melbourne last year? Was it? Nobody saw it. Is that, yes, go on. Tell us how it was.
We presented for different work, and we had literally put messages on social media saying, please stop coming, and they would give you out a block. I did see the work. I ran into a colleague recently, and he said, I haven't seen you since the time that we wept at that boat show. which we did it, and I was just thinking about what this said, that it really does work well on 2 very different levels. The children are kind of having quite a joyous in this experience, and the adults are kind of, weeping at this beautiful kind of refugee story. So it really does work on both levels.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. That's perfect. Thanks. Any questions? Yes?
Hi, I'm Ben from Singapore.
Hi.
Whatever the number that Viv may quote for her production, the value to the child and the parent is priceless.
Oh, thank you.
In Singapore, the joy we saw on the children's faces was not just priceless. It then makes us realize how valuable play is versus the iPad that we tend to task with the child to experience. So worthwhile exploring.
Thank you very much. So one quick question from here, and then we'll move on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's an intimate experience. The boat has a capacity of 40 people, which is why we're keen to explore the potential for an additional watching audience if the space allows.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Next we go to Canada for a piece of contemporary Indigenous musical theatre from Urban Inc. It's led by the director and playwright and composer Corey Payette. Children of God premiered last May in Vancouver. It's performed in English and Ojibwe, and it's created with the intention of using the arts as a vehicle for reconciliation between Canada's Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, which is a very, very profound issue in Canada just now. And here to present it, is from Fascinator Management, Danny Fecco, and the Artistic Director of Urban Inc., Corey Payette.
Nin, good morning. My name is Corey Payette. My father is from the Matagami First Nations in Northern Ontario, Oji-Cree territory, and I'm thrilled to acknowledge the Lenape Nation on whose territories we are gathered today.
And my name is Danny Fecco. I am from unceded Coast Salish Territory, Vancouver, BC. And we are so excited to be here talking to you today about Children of God, a musical written, composed, and directed by Corey, and produced by his company, Urban Inc., in collaboration with Canada's National Arts Centre and Raven Theatre. The show had its world premiere spring 2017 at the York Theatre in Vancouver, and then went on to the NAC.
I have been an ISPA fellow for the last 3 years, learning and listening to all of you, and I am so excited to have the opportunity to share my work with you today. I'm a musical theater creator. I write the book, music, and lyrics, and I also direct the shows that I create. Through my Indigenous community, I've been taught that you cannot tell a story without that story having a song, and that song having a dance, and that dance telling a story. So Children of God is a musical about an Oji-Cree family whose children were sent to residential schools in Northern Ontario. It's set in 2 time periods, 20 years apart, one in 1950 and the second in 1970, looking at the intergenerational impacts of the residential school system on one family. It is the story of Rita, a mother who was never let past the school's gate, and her kids, Tom and Julia, who never knew that she came. Julia is a runner who tries to escape the school because of the abuse that she is facing. And Tom, 20 years later, is now back living with his mother, trying to piece his life together.
Children of God offers a thrilling blend of ancient traditions and contemporary realities, celebrating resilience and the power of the Indigenous cultural spirit. Inspired by First Nations music, Corey's profoundly moving score also includes echoes of provocative Broadway shows like Fun Home and Next to Normal. Residential schools in Canada began in 1870, and roughly 150,000 Indigenous children were removed from their communities and families at roughly age 4 and forced to attend these harsh and oppressive environments. At their peak, there were a total of about 130 schools per province in Canada, and the last school only closed in 1996.
We developed this project alongside the Indigenous community in Kamloops, BC, at the Chief Louis Cultural Centre, a former residential school on the Tecumloops Indian Band. We rehearsed in the chapel of the school, and we had an open door policy, so our room was open to people from the community to come in and witness what we were doing. When I started writing Children of God 7 years ago, the history of residential schools wasn't talked about. It was something that was taboo even in my family and that people were afraid of. It is about this piece developed alongside our entire countries becoming aware of this horrible history. It is about having a deeper understanding of these stories, working to acknowledge and honor the survivors and their descendants. It is about understanding that this system is having a ripple effect of cultural genocide and inherited trauma for generations and generations. Musical theater is all about when you can no longer speak, you sing. And so I look at it as music furthering a character's journey into their emotion. It felt very natural to use music as a tool to express emotions that were beyond words. Accompanied by a group of 4 musicians playing piano, viola, cello, and guitar, the music lifts these characters' journeys into their emotions. And so it allows these characters to go into these heightened states and to break their silences. We're going to show you a trailer of the show.
on stages at the end of every single performance of this show. As a settler to Canada, Children of God has really presented me with an opportunity to confront my own journey of reconciliation, and we feel strongly that these stories will transcend across cultures to any communities that have experienced cultural oppression. We're looking for presentations. We're asking for a fee of about $35,000 US a week, and we can work with presenters for travel, accommodation, and per diem. Right now, we are negotiating dates for January through March 2019 in Canada, and we're available to tour before and after that and into 2020.
Children of God is touring this season beginning in Edmonton at the Citadel Theatre in March and at Western Canada Theatre in Kamloops in April. And we'd love to have you join us if you can. Elder Evelyn Camille, the elder who blessed us in Kamloops, who attended that reclaimed residential school, when she came to see the show, she said, "You need to do this work in every community because it is not just about Indigenous people knowing this story and understanding this history, it is about everyone." Miigwech, thank you for listening.
The terrible, terrible story of Canada's residential schools is not widely known, I think, yet outside Canada. Do you envisage touring it with some educational or outreach projects that would give some background to the story?
Well, there are residential schools that still exist today around the world. The effects of colonization are still present in many communities all worldwide. So I think that a lot of Indigenous communities will be very familiar with. It might not be called residential schools, but they are familiar with the oppression and with the disconnection of families and communities. And so, but yeah, we always travel. We have an installation that we have in our lobbies as well that helps to give some context to the history of residential schools in Canada. But I also think it would be really exciting to explore opportunities internationally and try to relate what has happened in Canada with other histories of oppression around the world.
And what sort of size space do you think does it work best in?
We have performed in spaces that are 100 seats, and the National Arts Centre was over 800 seats. So, and it can go even larger.
The show right now is quite scalable, that we definitely, within the Canadian context, want to be taking this to smaller communities, to reserves across Canada. So we can play, our set is scalable. We can be in any size space, really.
Did anybody see the premiere in Vancouver? Yes.
Hi, my name is Lagrime di San Pietro, and I had the absolute pleasure of being the world premiere in Vancouver last spring. We thought we knew the story, the residential school story, and what we prepared for was how Corey crafted this amazing human story that brought the emotion and transformative experience to the entire sold-out audience. It's absolutely true. What Danny says, we as an audience could not. Felt such deep emotions to this, and what was really amazing was what Corey has crafted is a story that bridges the social relationships. It's captivating, it's transformative, and at the end of the day, it's absolutely memory-making. Every regional theatre company in Canada I know is thinking, wanting to take this show to themselves.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions? Probably time for one question. Yes.
Hey, sorry, Marcus Youssef. Just to add to what Howard said, I think something that's maybe not 100% clear from the pitch either is what a successful piece of Western musical theater it is. And in my experience seeing the premiere in Vancouver, creates a kind of access point for audiences who may not necessarily be super familiar with the effects of colonization in a really empathic and entertaining way. And that feels like it served a really important function in the Canadian community that Howard referred to.
Thank you very much. Thank you both very much. Thank you. Next, we go to South Africa for a contemporary dance collaboration which premiered last May in Johannesburg. It's a collaboration between the Vuyani Dance Theatre and the Market Theatre. And its two starting points are Sion, who's a professional mourner, who's the lead character in a book by the South African novelist, poet, and playwright Zakis Medar, and also, rather improbably, Ravel's great orchestral work, Bolero. And here to present it is the production and marketing director of Vuyani Dance Theatre, Sia Dakoda.
Good morning. This work is created by Gregory Magoma, internationally celebrated choreographer, dancer, social entrepreneur, and recently the recipient of the French government's Chevalier of the Literature and Arts Award. In this piece, he takes Zakes Mda's character in the book Ways of Dying, and he brings this character, Dologi, who is a professional mourner, to life on stage. Mda attained global renown with Ways of Dying in 1995, which was his seminal first novel that featured the unforgettable character Dologi, a professional mourner at township funerals during South Africa's transition to democracy. Mda's writing is entrenched in African values, ethics, and offers a broader view of South Africa as a complex animal with unique cultures. In Sion, the follow-up to Ways of Dying, Mda revisits Dologi a decade later, and like the author himself, the character is now living in the United States, where Dologi uncovers the story of runaway slaves who were ancestors of an impoverished Southern family. In this dance production, Magoma draws inspiration from the multifaceted character of Dologi, whom he embodies in a solo and is joined on stage by 8 of the dancers from Vuyani Dance Theatre. The character is set against the dark cloud of his country of birth, South Africa, and uses this as a palette to confront the notion of fear, of existing, of religion, of the self, and of who we have become. Magoma believes that the world has changed from what we imagined it to be. We are all victims clouded by fear. This work is intended to bring us light and hope that humanity still exists, and even in our darkest times. Death is a universal rite of passage in a universe of greed, power, and religion has led us to be professional mourners in our own rights, who transform the horror of death and the pain of mourning into a narrative without feeling for life. As you'll see in the following video, the music in Sion is delivered in a stirring fashion by an Istatamia troupe and the percussive voices of the Vuyani dancers under the musical direction of Xolisile Bongwana and Nhlanhla Mahlangu. Magoma's use of Revel's bolero will serve as a requiem to the departed souls while offering an opportunity to heal.
Wena kufa unyoko nguba utosi lwako luvela kupina wena kufa usalwa kuba nyoko nguba ebu nyoko ngumaba wenu nyoko nguba nina
Wena kufa uzalwa ngubani wena kufa litabo
Take the time to think it through. Just live to think it through. Finally, life will trouble to you. Take the time to make it through. Just live to think it through. Finally, life will trouble to you. Take the time to think it through. Just live to think it through. Finally, life will trouble to you. Just live to think it through. Finally, life will trouble to you. Take the time to think it through. Just live to think it through. Finally, life will trouble to you. Take the time to think it through. Just live to think it through. Finally, life will trouble to you. Take the time to think it through. Just live to think it through. Finally, life will trouble to you. Take the time to think it through. Just live to think it through. Finally, life will trouble to you. Take the time to think it through. Just live.
Kaloye puga balek,
Kaloye puga balek, kaloye puga balek, kaloye puga balek, kaloye puga balek, kaloye puga balek, kaloye puga balek, iti kaloye puga balek, 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 kaloye puga. Kaloye puga balek.
kumba mama yeah, hey 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 kumba mama yeah. Go falla, go dula, go falla, go dula, go falla, go dula, go falla, go dula, go falla.
The work premiered at the Market Theatre last year in May, and we haven't taken it anywhere yet. We're looking for touring opportunities and representation in the various territories around the world. The full touring team is about 18 people, 9 dancers, 6 vocalists, and the support team. The fee for one show at a minimum of 2, is $14,100, and this excludes travel fees, technical equipment, accommodation, and per diems. Goes without saying, the venue, we would like to have a level stage with a wooden sprung floor, and the set is really, it's not complicated. It's just a set of 25 wooden crosses with an average height of 1 meter and a base of 45 centimeters, 6 wooden stools, and 1 plastic backdrop, which is about 10 meters in height and 7 meters in width. We're happy to provide you with footage from our premiere at the Market Theatre, a full dossier, technical writer, translations to the lyrics, and any other supporting information that you might need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the cast is 15. What's the total touring party of the piece?
It's 18 people.
Okay. And you say in the handout that you're looking for touring opportunities for this, but also representation. Do you mean representation for the project or for Vuyani more generally?
For the project, we would like various people to sell in the territories that they work in. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Did anybody see the premiere last year in Johannesburg? Yes.
Hi, Lucy from UK. I saw the piece in Johannesburg and I can't speak highly enough for it. It was a beautiful, absolutely beautiful piece, and the skill of the dance and the singing was amazing. It was an outstanding piece of work.
Do you have any sense of priority territories that you want to tour to? Do you have a sense of priorities where it would work better or less well?
Well, the topic of death is a universal topic, so I think we could actually, we could go anywhere and we could have this conversation with anybody. So yeah, we're not really picky. We'd love to come wherever you are.
Okay, anybody else either see it or have questions? Any questions?
At the back?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, Erwin here, I want to reiterate what you said. I saw it in Johannesburg, and from the morning cry, the first morning cry, you're just completely captivated. It's really as if you're holding your breath throughout the entire performance. And the vocalists are really stunning. So I just wanted to reiterate.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Next, we're back here in New York for a new large-scale physical theatre project from Beth Morrison Projects. It's by the creator and writer and performer Jeff Sobel, called Home, and it premiered last September in Philadelphia, and it explores the relationship between house as a concept and home as a concept, and it looks at the timely themes of gentrification and migration, some of which came up in the session yesterday afternoon. And here to present it is the executive director of Beth Morrison Projects, Jekka Barry, and the creator and the writer of Home, Jeff Sobel.
despiertes y sueñas amores. Niña hermosa, soñar es amar. Despertar es quebrar ilusiones, hallar entre sombras la amarga verdad. No despiertes si vives soñando, que en tu mente hay torrente de sol. En tus sueños se encienden suspiros que te cercan y acallan tu voz. Soñar y nada más, con mundo de ilusión. Soñar y nada más, con un querer arrobador. Soñar que tuyo es él y vive para ti. Soñar siempre soñar, que dicen que el amor es triste de verdad.
Hi, my name is Jeff Sobel. Come from the world of devised physical theater. I'm the lead artist on this project. And my practice, I take large scale installation and design and slam it together with illusion and innovative stage technique, and I'm always looking for different ways of integrating live audience into the work. Based on the success of my last work, which was called The Object Lesson, which is still touring. It's not a table for it, though. I was invited by Joe Melillo to bring a new work to the BAM Harvey, which was the largest room I'd ever considered for a show. And the piece that came out of that consideration is this work, Home. When I make new work, I'm thinking about large universal themes and mining it for personal resonance. Some years ago, I bought an old house in Philadelphia. It was about 100 years old, and while I was rehabbing the kitchen, I took up the floor down to the dirt, and under the linoleum tile was more linoleum tile, and under that was more linoleum tile and more, until I literally had like an archaeological cross-section about the size of a brick. And I thought, wow, it'd be so amazing to have a house party and invite the ghosts of all the old residents who ever walked on those original floors. And that is, in a sense, what the show is. It's a crazy house party. And we see the life cycle of a house from beginning to end, and all of the residents who ever live in the house. So the piece begins with a totally empty stage and one performer. The culmination of the show is a 2-story, fully lived-in house on stage, and 35, 40 people living in it, having a wild party. And it ends with the abandonment and condemnation of that structure. So how do we get there? It's a bit of a magic trick. But the house appears as a stick frame and then literally develops over the course of the show, room by room, element by element. There's no projection or fake objects. Everything's real. It's just done through illusion, old 19th century illusion techniques. And the crowd of people are audience members. So we have developed a crazy instructional technique where we literally spirit away unprepared non-performers right from their seats and give them moment-to-moment instruction. So they're so busy that they forget they're on the stage. We don't pay them. So that is pretty much the show. We really, my hope with this piece is that it brings a lot of love to an audience. They have a great time with the show. It's very warm. It's for them to make the house of the theater become their home and the audience become their instant community. We're hoping, as you said, to awaken these themes of migration and gentrification, eviction, rendered through this sense of choreography of just ordinary people passing through a structure and passing through and passing through. Yeah, if I have any hopes for the show, it's really to have this sense of camaraderie, that you're closer to the person that you're sitting next to in the theater by the time you've left.
Home was commissioned by BAM, Arizona State University Gamage, the New Zealand Festival, and the Edinburgh International Festival. It was developed over 2 years with residencies at Mana Contemporary, Brick,
BAM, Penn State, and Arts Emerson. It premiered in Philadelphia this past September at Fringe Arts, and we've had presentations at Arts Emerson's Paramount Theater and the BAM Harvey at the beginning of December. We will be touring to the New Zealand Festival this coming March, and we will have presentations at Recklinghausen in Germany and the Edinburgh International Festival in August. We are looking for touring partners for the coming seasons. The show has a travel company of 15. It's about a 3-day load-in plus a pre-hang. So if our set arrives on a Monday, then we can do a first presentation on Wednesday. And it travels in a 40-foot shipping container or a 48-foot truck domestically.
Thank you. I was going to ask you about the load-in, just looking at that. Are there any particular technical requirements that venues should be aware of with this?
It was created for a proscenium house with a fly system, so the fly system is key.
And your ideal auditorium size for it would be?
You know, we've played to our smallest so far was 400. The Harvey is 800. Some of the presentations we have coming up are around 1,200. So it's definitely scalable. You know, one of the things that we love about the show is that it's going to be different in every place. That because we end up with 35 audience members on stage, it's going to look and feel different in New Zealand than it did in Boston. And so it really becomes a reflection of community.
It feels very much a festival. I mean, you've not, I think, done it in festivals yet, but it feels very much a festival kind of project. You can see it working really well in festivals.
Yeah, I think it's perfect for festivals. I think that there is a certain type of audience that really gets into this piece. I think that you know, so far we've had a great time with our audiences, and by the end, it really does feel like a house party.
Did anybody see it in Philadelphia? Yes.
Oh, I saw it in New York. It's really a joyous and wonderful piece. Oftentimes you go to the theater and you have to really, you know, immerse and think. This one does all that, but it takes you through an incredible journey where at the end of it, as Jeff said, you create a community. And it's one of the most fun pieces I've seen in a long time. And we're working on bringing it to Stanford, and Jeff's a Stanford alum. So.
Yes. Yeah. Just one second. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Linda at Pomegranate Arts. I think Jeff is one of the most extraordinary artists working today in how he crafts theater. I don't know if anyone did see the object lesson. It was a diamond of a piece, but seeing this work, and I did see some early workshops, and then at the Harvey, was really extraordinary to see your ambitious idea for this piece transformed to a large-scale space. But I think I found the work, it is a house party, it is joyful, there's so much joy in the room, but I found it really profoundly moving, and I think the way Jeff understands how community works and what happens in terms of how that line is broken down in theater, not just between audience and theater, but depending on who comes into the piece, it's completely transformative. So I loved it.
So much. Yes. How many touring?
It's a touring party of 15.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, be prepared to hide your mobile phone numbers, because if your audience finds out there is audience participation, and if they've seen the object lesson, they will try and inundated us when they found out in Sydney in the object lesson that there was a little bit of that. People wanted to be in the show.
Thanks. Any last question? Yes.
I started in Philadelphia, and produced some things in Philadelphia, and I just wanted to say that what stayed with me was the magic and the illusion that you created, and how one physical body melted into the beauty of the piece at the beginning. I know it transforms into the joyous party at the end, but the illusion that you bring and the beauty of the composition and the whimsy of it, there was so much magic in that production that I don't want that to be, that's what stayed with me most, and the ghosts and the multiple bodies and the tricks that you composed were just extraordinary. So I just wanted to just say that's what stayed with me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. we're staying in the US for the latest of Peter Sellers' concert hall stagings of works with religious origins. It's in the line of descendants of his two amazing stagings of the Bach, St. Matthew and St. John Passions. And this is the first one he's done which doesn't have instruments, which is purely a cappella. In this one, 21 singers of the Los Angeles Master Chorale transformed the Lagrime di San Pietro from the 16th century Flemish composer Orlando di Lasso into another of his passionate performance pieces. That this one premiered 15 months ago at the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles. And here to present it are the Director of Touring and Management for David Lieberman Artist Representative Alan Moon and the Artistic Director of the LA Master Chorale, Grant Gershon.
Good morning. The Los Angeles Master Chorale is widely recognized as the U.S.'s leading professional chorus. Hailed for its powerful performances, technical precision, and artistic daring, the Master Chorale performs repertoire from Beethoven, Bach, and Handel, as well as commissioning and premiering new works, and was recently featured in the new Star Wars score by John Williams. A founding resident company of LA's Music Center, the Master Chorale presents a full season of concerts in their home, the Walt Disney Concert Hall, under the artistic direction of Grant Gershon, and enjoys a very close relationship with Gustavo Dudamel and the Los Angeles Philharmonic. In October 2016, the Master Chorale and Gershon premiered an adventurous new staging of Orlando de Lassio's Renaissance masterwork, Lagrime di San Pietro, directed by Peter Sellers, and was received to resounding acclaim. This creative partnership pushed all kinds of boundaries, shifting the perception of what a professional chorus can do and reframing this classic work through a poignant contemporary lens.
So I've had the massive good fortune to work with Peter Sellers on a number of projects, and the genesis of this was actually in 2011 when Peter and I were working on Vivaldi's Griselda at the Santa Fe Opera. And one of the things that I've been particularly moved by in watching Peter work over the years is the way that he can guide singers to connect their deepest and most complex emotions to the music. And so at the time, in 2011, Peter was also working on the Bach St. Matthew and St. John Passion with Simon Rattle and the Berlin Philharmonic. And we started to think about how incredible it would be for him to stage a completely a cappella work, where there's no buffer between the singers and the audience, and the pure sound of the human voice would convey all of the structure, the colors, the textures, and the feeling of a major work. So Lagrime di San Pietro by the Renaissance master Orlando de Lasso seemed like the perfect piece for this approach. It's a piece that is much revered, but rarely performed. It was Orlando's final masterpiece and the final major work of the Italian Renaissance. Even the Grove's Encyclopedia of Music says that this cycle of spiritual madrigals is one of the most remarkable testaments in the history of music. So the problem that the piece has had, I think, over the years is that this highly emotional, even anguished music has historically been performed in a very buttoned down, a reverential style. There are several really lovely recordings of the piece out there that I have to say are also incredibly dull. And so Peter and I felt that the truth of this music could be unlocked with an intense focus on the poetry and on movement. What neither Peter and I could fully anticipate was the overwhelming emotional vulnerability that our singers from the LA Master Chorale would bring to the project. So ostensibly, this piece is about Peter the Apostle and his lifelong sense of remorse over denying Jesus before the crucifixion. But what we came to realize as we all worked together is that Orlando de Lasso was delving into much more universal themes surrounding growing older, losing the things and the people that we care about, experiencing extreme shame and regret, but also the possibility of benediction. We all came away from the initial performances in LA with two realizations. One is that Lagrime di San Pietro is truly one of the towering masterpieces of Western music. And second, that this project for each of us is some of the most important work that we've ever embarked upon. And therefore, we're extremely eager to share this piece, to share what we've discovered with the whole world. This is a piece that people need to hear, to see, and to experience. I'll close by sharing another video clip from the first performance last year at Disney Hall in LA. And I should just mention quickly that the singing on these video clips is not overdubbed. I still don't know how these 21 singers managed to harmonize in perfect 7-part Renaissance polyphony while rolling around on the floor.
Thank you very much. So this is designed like the other Peter's pieces for essentially for concert halls. Is there any set, any design at all?
No, and in fact, that was one of the aspects of the piece that that we talked about from the beginning. It was that there would be no sets, no props, costumes basically off the shelf. That it would have a very small footprint and therefore be very flexible in terms of the type of venues in which it could be presented.
So
we are
in terms of the load-in and how quickly you can do a performance after arrival. It's what?
Well, with the pre-hang, we can perform on the same day of load-in, and in addition to concert halls, we can do proscenium environments as well.
Yeah. Did anybody see the premiere in LA? Somebody must have seen it. Is it? I mean, this is. The two previous ones, the Bach Passions, they're, as you say, big orchestral pieces. A lot of people know them. This is music very few people will know. I mean, if 16th century Flemish music is completely outside your ballpark, how will you read this?
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, for a lot of our audience, this was, of course, music that was very unfamiliar. And the emotional impact of the piece, first off, the fact that the music is so extraordinarily beautiful. But again, the emotion of the piece, it's cathartic, it's devastating. It was really overwhelming, and I think that it feels to me like you do not have to have prior knowledge of the piece or the style to feel what the music is really about.
You say you have touring plans in 1819 and 1920. Can you say where they're to?
Where dates or locations?
Well, particularly places, I'm thinking, for people who may be able to see it on its travels.
In the fall of 18, we are going to Ravinia and to the Cranert Center. We're in the final phases of negotiation with other U.S. venues. In May of 2019, we're going to Cité de la Musique, the Barbican, Sage Gateshead. We're looking for periods of time, specifically internationally, in that May period, and we're also in discussions with international festivals in July of 2019 as well.
And anybody who runs a concert hall, this could just go straight in. It's an ultimately flexible piece. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, but you need an orchestral size stage, not a chamber hall.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Any one question? Yeah.
We also will do MGM, the president of the Master Chorale. We're doing 2 performances of Lagrime in Los Angeles on March 17th and 18th this spring. Anybody would like to come?
Again, March 17th and 18th at Disney Hall in LA coming up.
Okay, thank you both very much. Thank you. All right, sorry, there's a frantic question.
Yes, there are surtitles. There are supertitles in the concert for the audience, yeah.
Good question, good question. Okay, thank you both very much. So next, we go to the UK for an extraordinary, they call it an auditory excavation, based on Courtney Angela Britchick's book, The Stone Fields, Love and Death in the Balkans. And it's led by 4 singers, a solo dancer, oral testimony, new oral testimony from Brickich herself. And the work premiered last year at a small venue in the west of London, the Print Room. And here to present it are the producer of Erotica, which is the production company behind it, George Warren, and the director of Erotica, Patrick Eakin-Young.
Hi, good morning, thank you. I'm Patrick Eakin-Young, the artistic director of Erotica. Erotica is a London-based company producing ambitious, multidisciplinary work that puts music at the center of powerful storytelling. We believe in the capacity of music to take us beyond what can be said and to communicate what lies beneath. Where language fails, poetry, movement, and music begins. Our projects also combine technology, text, video, and dance, and take the form of live theater performances, site-specific installations, and interactive experiences. In the UK, some of our partners have included the Victoria and Albert Museum, the Royal Opera House, and Dance Umbrella, London. But the most likely place that this audience would have encountered our work was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 2015, where our piece La Celestina transformed the Vélez Blanco courtyard into an immersive installation opera. That project, featuring an audio design of recomposed Spanish folk songs and video by Chicago's Manual Cinema, was seen by about 25,000 people over the course of 10 days, which was a big success even for the Met. From performances to installations, holographic chamber pieces, or interactive pinball ballets, we strive to combine musical complexity with a pop sensibility, creating compelling, vibrant, and unique theatrical experiences. So last June in London, we premiered our latest stage piece called Remnants. Remnants is a dance theater work based on the powerful memoir, The Stone Fields, Love and Death in the Balkans, by the American writer Courtney Angela Brkic. In the mid-90s, drawn to Bosnia by her family history, Brkic joined a UN forensics team helping to excavate the mass graves at Srebrenica. In returning to Bosnia, however, she discovers an extraordinary romance 50 years earlier between her Catholic grandmother and a young Jewish man forced into hiding by the fascists during the Second World War. In the piece, 5 women, 4 singers and a solo dancer, lead the audience in an extraordinary auditory excavation, unearthing the songs and stories of love and loss buried in the soil of post-war Bosnia. Created and directed by myself, the piece combines traditional Bosnian vocal music with new compositions by English composer Christian Mason, immersive sound design, and deep bass electronic music by sound artist Shelley Parker. Brkic's own voice, cut from interviews I recorded with her, sits atop these musical textures, telling her and her grandmother's story in the intimate and direct style of a podcast. The solo dancer, performing choreography by Jamila Johnson-Small, moves between the past and the present, embodying both Brkic and her grandmother, acting as witness and medium for the audience. A moving, multisensory theatrical experience, Remnants delves through layers of physical theater and dance, sound, song, and spoken testimony to find traces of love and hope submerged in the darkest chapters of the 20th century European history.
My father was a storyteller. He told me about my grandmother. When he thought that we were old enough to understand, he began telling us the other stories as well. The terrible things. The war had been over for exactly a year when I arrived in Bosnia-Herzegovina. In the early days, they didn't know where people were going, where they were being taken, but they knew that it wouldn't be good. Srebrenica, which is the place where the mass graves were, where I participated in excavations. My job depended on how decomposed the bodies were. Let me just back up just a little bit and think. We're not even sure exactly when my grandmother met Josef. Remains of trousers, was decomposed flesh, great burns. My father knew never to talk about the fact that Josef was hiding in their apartments. They had plotted out an escape route for Josef, and when the police came to arrest him, he completely froze. This is the bit that's hard.
So Remnants is a co-production between Erotica and the Print Room Coronet, and the initial run was supported by Arts Council England and the PRS Foundation. The show is available for touring over the next 3 years. It's a pretty flexible and it's suitable for most mid-sale venues. The narration of the piece is entirely pre-recorded and there's no other vocals apart from singing, so it's easy to translate into different languages and is suitable for all territories. There's also a concert version which has the live singers but without the set, and that can be performed in a shortened loading time and also to a wider variety of spaces, including concert halls and smaller venues. We're going to be obviously at the expo after, so if you want any more information, just swing by and talk to us.
Thank you very much. It's a bit hard to tell from the video actually what kind of space it was in. What would be your ideal space to do it in?
Well, it works on end-stage proscenium stages, but someone suggested to me the other day when I was pitching the show to her that it could also work on a thrust stage, which I think is entirely true, because the theater that it was in is a kind of, people who know the Bouffe du Nord in Paris, it's kind of like that. It's an old opera house that's been converted, and it has this kind of bulbous extending stage, which is seen as an end stage, but of course, because we set it on that stage, you could also very easily be on a thrust stage as well.
And it obviously deals with incredibly sensitive and difficult areas. What sort of audience do you think it's most likely to speak to?
Well, this is a hard question. I think it's an incredibly hard-hitting piece. And at the end of the show, people often just sit in silence for a minute or two, which is a little bit unnerving as a theater performer or director to, like, nobody claps. They just sort of goes quiet. But I think, we did a lot of outreach to the Jewish community in London, to Bosnian community as well. Obviously, anyone who is interested in conflict or trauma, like this obviously speaks to those subject matters. But it also is just a beautifully moving piece that I think everybody can enjoy.
I was wondering, as I was watching it, a little bit like the Canadian piece, Children of God, earlier, do you envisage touring with any educational outreach projects that give context to the...
Yes, in fact, when we premiered the piece in London, we did a whole shoulder program called What Remains, which was a series of talks with different artists and academics around issues of memory and conflict. And we would be very interested in doing a similar program wherever we tour the show, to talk with local academics, local artists who are working with this material to respond to the work. It's a very, the piece is very much about history and how we keep repeating ourselves. And I think it's very important that it is a stimulus for a discussion about those in today's society.
Thanks very much. Anyone see it in London at the premiere? Nobody saw it? Okay, any questions? Questions about it? I think it's the same reaction as the performances.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we're back in the US for Strings by Bandaloop. It's an indoor vertical dance project, but it's combined with a site-specific outdoor activation, and it was commissioned by Meany Hall at the University of Washington and premiered there 3 months ago. And it features an original score by the great London-based composer and DJ Gabriel Prokofiev, and it's described as exploring the human condition and the innate sensibilities which we all share. And here to present it are the artistic director and founder of Bandaloop, Amelia Rudolph, and the composer and DJ, Gabriel Prokofiev.
Good morning. My name is Amelia Rudolph. I'm the founder and artistic director of Bandaloop. We celebrate the human spirit, nature, and communities through dance that uses climbing technology to challenge and expand what is possible. We've been dancing on the sides of buildings, mountains, cliffs, bridges, and in performing arts centers and on them since 1991. And today I'm thrilled to introduce our latest and most dynamic work to date, Strings, with our collaborator, composer, and DJ, Gabriel Prokofiev from the UK. Strings is a 40-minute indoor proscenium work featuring 8 dancers. We collaborated with Gabriel, our associate artistic director, Melesio Estrella, our dancers and riggers, to develop the work. It was anchored by the Mellon Foundation Creative Fellowship Initiative at the University of Washington, Meany Hall in Seattle, where we worked with Michelle Witt and her amazing team, and also premiered the work last October. The piece is about the various ways that we experience connection, which I notice so many of these pieces are about today. It's about how relationships tug on us, enclose us, or set us free. The interdependent rigging systems and the choreography allow the rope itself to become a character and brings to life the range of these connections. The indoor work of Strings is combined with our signature site-specific outdoor performances on the exterior walls of the building, giving the audience a full range of the multi-dimensional experience that is Bandaloop. We'll now share a video with you with excerpts from the premiere, and after that, Gabriel will talk briefly about the music and the collaboration. excited about the new piece, Strings. It's a collaboration with a composer out of the UK, Gabriel Prokofiev, who has this amazing ability to pull from the old Russian world that his grandfather came from, and also include almost the future, or certainly the present, in the kind of driving, almost club sound. And he blends these two. It sounds crazy, but the way the two work together in many of these pieces is just amazing.
I think what's really poignant about working with the idea of strings and connection right now in the world is looking at our political situation of deep divides and building walls. And I think the antidote seems like, what are our connections? And what kind of support can we exchange through the strings that attach us to each other? Taking the work of Bandaloop into a theater offers us the opportunity to create intimate moments, to have a somewhat controlled environment, to make work where subtlety can be really legible, and where we can invite the audience into a smaller, maybe even more secret areas of the human experience.
Hello, my name's Gabriel Prokofiev. It's great to be here in ISPA. And as a composer, really I'm particularly interested in taking classical music out of its 20th century bubble into the culturally open and diverse world that we live in now. And when Bandaloop approached me about writing the score for them, I was really impressed by how successfully they bring dance to new audiences and how they step beyond the usual definitions of what contemporary dance is. And I think that art that challenges the boundaries of genre and style often leads to some of the most exciting innovations. As well as studying classical music, I was involved in the London live music scene from an early age. And I played in bands, produced hip-hop, grime, and electronica. And my music takes influences from all these different worlds. And working with Bandaloop on this work, Strings, I allowed these often contrasting styles to become even more explicitly entwined than ever before. I created urban and angular beats using samples of ropes and strings, which I set against futuristic electronic sounds and vintage synthesizers, and then finally added classical cellos, creating a score that reflects both the new raw energy and lyricism of Bandaloop's movement. And though the world premiere performance in Seattle featured the recordings of my score, I'd very much welcome the opportunity to DJ live together with live strings and bring this work to another sonic level. Thank you.
That would be great. It would be wonderful to be able to have Gabriel live. As Gabriel mentioned, our mission as a company is to bring dance to new audiences internationally and activate spaces with perspective-changing work. Education and engagement are also very important to us, and we work with youth, adults, and business executives to help them imagine what dance and they can be. We're currently seeking presenters to add to our current touring date so far at MUPA in Budapest, the spring of 2019 for that, and we're looking forward to working with you and your community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just explain a little bit how the indoor and outdoor works. Is it the same audience that goes from the indoor space to the outdoor space?
Yes, it is the same audience, but as anybody who's presented us before knows, rehearsing on a building is not a private event, and it is a fabulous way to get people to know that something's happening. But yes, the show is intended to start on the outside, normally, and then work its way inside into the theater, yes.
And I'm sensing that the theatre requirements, technical requirements are probably fairly straightforward, but in terms of the outdoor space, what kind of outdoor space do people who are thinking of picking it up need to have?
Yeah, you would be surprised. Some of my favorite spaces are actually the back of a parking garage, which you never thought of as a dance floor, because that means I get wings, meaning people can enter and exit. So really, it is just an accessible roof, a wall that is probably a minimum of about 30 feet tall to, you name it. Yeah, just so that we can anchor to the roof, but we're extremely facile at doing that and have figured out how to do that even on 14th century buildings in Italy and India.
And the outdoor element is presumably weather dependent. There are some weathers in which you couldn't do the outdoor element.
Our famous line is, if the audience can take it, we can take it.
Did anybody see the first performances of it? Yes.
Hello, I'm Chewbacca from Budapest ISPA. It was a wonderful performance. It was outdoor in a huge square in a modern facade of a building. And whole Budapest loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That was the outdoor show.
Yes.
From the Center for Performing Arts, and we did this work, and it was such an incredible experience for our entire community, because you see the company rehearsing on, we started on the outside of the building, you see them rehearsing on the outside for a week, and so there was a huge awareness built around the performance. We had a movement chorus of volunteers who, after the performance on the outside of the building, moved the audience, actually very gracefully, in order into the space. And then we were able to experience Bandaloop in a completely different setting, expanding their language. And what you don't see in this video is that they also were able to dance above the audience. They utilized our balcony and rigged to that. And that was also very engaging for the audience. And it was one of our most successful performances ever on our dance series. It was extraordinary, so thank you.
And Michelle, they're described as a dance company, but I mean, say a little bit about the kind of audience. Presumably this is not a conventional dance audience. I'm guessing it's much broader than that.
It's a mixture. Of course, it's a mixture of, in Seattle there's a large climbing community, and it's a mixture of people who are connected to the outdoors. We actually showed a film that was a piece about Bandaloop dancing in Yosemite, and it's also a dance audience. And then we had, at the university, we had a lot of students who became interested because they saw the company rehearsing on the building all week. And actually, at the performances themselves, we had many more people out in front of the building on the evening of the premiere, and we had big performances. With a smaller audience coming inside, but so you do have quite a large reach. And it was also raining a little bit in Seattle, so you may
as always.
Despite the rain.
Any quick question? Yes.
Well, I was just going to add another comment to that. It does kind of freak out your risk management and your facilities people on campus. I'm from the University of Alabama, Alice Stevens Center, and we had you up on our season last year. But once they met with the company and our tech crew, they were sold and so excited about it. We happened to have an all-staff, all-faculty picnic the day you were on our rec building outside, and drones are wonderful for great footage for the press. We had a drone working on it, and then we had an inside performance that was fabulous. Again, the same kind of thing, swinging out over the house. And we had 700 people sitting outside in our plaza waiting for that to finish so they could watch the company perform outside after dark. And donor events during the week as well, so you can use it to get some money in the door.
Thank you very much. No, we need to move on. I'm sorry. Downstairs at the pitch. Thank you both very much indeed. At the Pro-Ex. So the penultimate project, we're into the last two now, the penultimate one, Rite of Spring. It's a two-way collaboration between China's wonderful new Peacock Contemporary Dance Company and Sadler's Wells Theatre, the great National Dance House in London, England. And it's by China's iconic choreographer Yan Li Ping And it juxtaposes the original Tchaikovsky Rite of Spring score with new compositions that are inspired by traditional Tibetan music. So it's an interpretation of Stravinsky's narrative of ritual sacrifice seen through a Tibetan lens, if you will. And it hasn't premiered yet, it premieres this October in Shanghai. And here to present it are the executive director of Peacock Contemporary Dance Company, Nathan Wang, and Peacock's creative producer, Farouk Chowdhury.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Nathan Wang. I'm the executive director of PCDC, Peacock Contemporary Dance Company. Yang Liping is a very well-known, iconic dancer in China. She started in 1986. She's been on stage for 45 years. And in the last 10 years, she ventured into choreography, and she actually created 8 shows in which many of them she's the lead dancer. We started a contemporary dance company, Peacock Contemporary Dance Company, with a vision to bring Chinese modern dance into the world with a real Chinese language. Actually, she's got a touring of 30 shows this year, in addition to the creation of Rite of Spring. So I pass on to Farouk for the introduction to the show.
Good morning. Thank you, Nathan. So in 2016, Yang Liping created her first international cooperation called Under Siege. It tells a 2,000-year-old story of a transference of power from the Chu to the Han dynasty. And what makes it quite brilliant is how she very carefully crafts the kind of combination of traditional and abstract narrative ideas with very strong visual sort of symbols and metaphors. And that, as Anthony said, was supported by Sadler's Wells. We're thrilled that since that performance in London, it's gone on all around the world to Australia, to Austria, to Holland, and going to Israel next year, and has proved to be a very big success, as you can see by the reviews and also the occupancy that we're getting in the theatres. So, Rite of Spring. So Yang Liping's vision for Rite of Spring, as Anthony also said, was to take the original Stravinsky score of ritual sacrifice and reinterpret it from a Tibetan and Chinese perspective. So what that actually means that in discussions with the creative team is that we believe that this work is fundamentally a work about time, nature time against human time. And what that means really is, in our thinking, is that nature time is the time of inevitability, of cycle, against human time, and therefore of spring, which it comes back, and human time is about order and discipline and control. So therefore you sacrifice to control nature. So that's the way that we see it. We're using both lion and peacock animal symbols, which are strong Tibetan symbols, to create the movement language. And in this work, unlike many of the originals, the sacrificial victim volunteers rather than actually is chosen, and in the knowledge that she knows that she will be reincarnated at the end, and so life continues on. So can we go to the video, please?
非常抱歉，我不能来纽约。在我看来，斯特洛文斯基的《春之祭》就好像是一组具有多种可能性的密码。我更希望我和我们的团队能够在创作中，以东方的智慧、东方的哲学、东方的审美来解读《春之祭》的密码。 当太阳升起来的时候，万物在生长，鸟儿从远方飞来，春天来临，树木都在发芽，头发也在发芽，呈现出一片春天的气息。 作为女人，能够作为春天的祭典，那是一种至高无上的气度。
Okay, so it's not yet made. Its world premiere will be in Shanghai in 2018 in October. It's a work with 11 female dancers, 2 male. The Stravinsky music will occupy the central section, and we'll have Tibetan music either side. We still got to compose it. So thank you very much. We're looking for co-producing, priceless co-productions, in fact, if we can get some of those, and international touring partners. Thank you.
And is it still possible to come in as a co-commissioner of it?
Absolutely. That's the purpose of being here today.
And do you have touring plans that you can talk about after Shanghai, places where people could see it?
Well, actually, so far we have pledges from Edinburgh International Festival, Brisbane and Melbourne, as well as London. Of course, London, a chief co-producer. So, of course, those cities it will go to, and there's quite a lot of interest from other places. So we're discussing it with North America, with places in Canada and Ottawa, even Toronto. So, yeah, conversations are underway, but we see ourselves be fairly busy in 2019 and 2020.
I feel I have to ask you this. If somebody had access to an orchestra, would it be possible to do this with the Stravinsky Writers' Spring played live, or would that simply not be possible?
Absolutely. I think we're in discussion now with Edinburgh about doing that. So, yeah, it would be an extremely exciting opportunity. I think to make it really work, though, we would need to include some live Tibetan elements as well, which actually frame the Stravinsky music to make it feel a lot more authentic.
And it would obviously create completely different requirements for the space you were in.
Sure.
Of course, yeah. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Thank you, Suzanne. I would add to that, actually, that also happened in Melbourne and Brisbane, as well as in the Dutch tour.
Yeah, I just want to add our company is probably the only private-owned dance company or privately run dance company that's venturing into the international performance arts world, and so far it's been very successful. Yeah.
Okay, more questions downstairs in the Proex. Thank you very much indeed. We finish with You and Me, which is the newest work from the great Swiss masked theatre company Mummenschanz, created by Floriana Frassetto. And like all their work, it creates a dynamic between playful, wonderfully compelling experiences of shadow, of light, of the transformation of objects. This is another piece in that extraordinary journey. And to present it, the managing director of Mummenschanz Foundation, Markus Stimmun, and the founder and consultant for Asia-Pacific projects for KMP artists, Christopher McDowell.
First of all, thank you very much to the ISPA committee for recognizing this project, as it is a new era for Mummenschanz, as Floriana ushers a new generation of Swiss artists. Today, Christopher is joining me on this presentation. He is promoting Mummenschanz in the Asia-Pacific region and Middle East and Mexico. Also present is Teresa Weiberts from Cami Music, who is taking bookings for the United States and Canada, and there's a big tour through the US about to start later this month. But now, please, let us quickly start with the first clip. It's an introduction of Floriana, who can unfortunately not attend this Congress due to performances in Europe. Please, the first clip.
francs. 1200 francs. Ok. Alors je vous donne mon téléphone entre-temps. I am so excited I found this wonderful object. I'm going to make a sketch out of it, and I hope you will enjoy it. Come and see us.
As you can see, Floriana was supported by Tina Kronis and Richard Alger to create this new show. And let's go straight into the second clip where you see more parts out of the show, and we'll give you some more information about it. Please, the second clip. Mummenschanz attracts audiences of all ages and around the globe for decades. We performed all over the world in over 60 countries, and we have the touring data up on request. Most likely, we visited your country as well in the past.
Mummenschanz encourages the audience to participate with interactive sketches. Once you've seen them, you will never forget them because it's limited to the absolute maximum and always with the element of surprise. Everybody can take something from this show. It does not matter if your audience is intellectual or not.
This new show, You and Me, is satisfying and memorable equally for people, for the seasoned participant of theatrical performances and those audiences who are attending theater for the first time. Very important in our show is also the silence. And the silence utilized in the Mummenschanz repertoire has an important role within the show. Even though it's never really silent, you are stimulated by the reaction of the audience. You hear, and you hear the sound of the props and their movements as well. If you would attend our show more than once, you will surely see and catch different things. Not only because we make adaptations, but also because you might have caught not everything. This new show is the beginning of a new era for Mummenschanz. Floriana, she's the co-founder of the company, is also the artistic director and performs the show with 4 Swiss artists who are now in their 30s.
We will be touring this show throughout Asia Pacific in the coming years, including North Asia in November of this year, and seeking partnerships to tour in South Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and the Middle East, as well as Mexico in 2019. I'm encouraged by the impact the work has on audience and its ability to inspire the imagination, and one that will deliver a truly memorable experience through live interaction with your community.
Thank you very much. You were almost like a real audience. Our show lasts about 90 minutes, can be done with intermission as well. And to the end, Mummenschanz is exceptional fun for the whole family that builds lifetime memories, especially if your family is, you know, kind of weird. And that's also, this poster was done without our approval once, but I like it very much. So we are here to answer your questions, especially the wired ones.
I'll do the straight ones.
Okay.
What sort of space? I mean, it feels intimate work. I mean, I'm guessing that you wouldn't want this in a huge space.
Yeah, normally the best size for us is between 700, 8, up to 1,400, which works as well. But we have also been in bigger places and theaters. That's the most important. It has to be a theater.
Proscenium.
Yeah.
Proscenium, right. And it feels the sort of work that would cut across all ages. I mean, this looks as if it would work as well with young audiences as with adult audiences. Is that right?
I think there are a lot of people who can claim that, but this is actually true. Yeah. Yeah.
It's also like that. If you did see it once, it's for sure you will remember it. It stays in your mind. That's the amazing thing about Movement Chance.
You're the other presenter who says fee on request. Can you give any guidance as to where people might be expecting to look?
Because we're working so globally with obviously Cami Music as well here in North America, we're interested in talking to certain markets and we're thinking about them strategically. And therefore the answers will be a little bit different given the needs of the presenter.
Okay, thanks. Did anybody seen this piece? Yeah.
Hello, I'm Jaime from the University of Guadalajara, and as a private producer, I listened to Movement Chance about 2-3 years ago, and talking about spaces, we did it in our opera house, Bellas Artes, which is for 1,400 people, and it was amazing, very experienced, and the range of audiences they can reach is also incredible. I certainly would like to talk to you later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else seen this piece, the new piece? Any questions about this piece? I sense lunch calling, I think. Thank you both very much. Don't move.
Thank you.
Don't move. We have some people to thank. Firstly, thanks again to the sponsors of New Works Now, both for their regular support of this pitch session, which is really invaluable, but also for their support of ISPA more generally. Can we thank them properly? The theatre, great theatre designers, Fisher Dax. Also, and you get the quality of that 10. The problem about bringing the 63 down, there were a lot of others nearly as good as that. So it's a huge thanks to the pitch panel who've got hours and hours of video watching and looking at possibilities, different combinations for this session, who got that list down to this 10. They're Alison Friedman, Igor Lozada, Clotilde Cardinal, David Bale, and Piotr Turkiewicz. And those of them who are here, can they please stand so we can recognize you? Then I want to thank the technical and production team. This is a session, this was flawless. I think it's the first one I can ever remember where absolutely nothing went wrong. And it's incredibly difficult session. You know, there's all the formats of different stuff. New things were being uploaded in the 10 minutes before the session. And this sort of team makes it look easy. My last job before I was in Toronto was running a big venue in the northeast of England, international venue. We had a technical team who were completely fearless, and they said this was the hardest thing they'd ever done. So big thanks to the teams. The Times. I should name them. That you'll know who they are. Time Centre, the stage manager Jason. On video, Matt. On sound, Josh. And on lights, Tim. And then for ISPA, the media guru. That comes to be in inverted commas, but you know what it means. It means sewing all this stuff together from every format and direction in which it comes. Is Tiffany. Production manager Doug. The pitch organizer, Nora, and we really need to give them proper thanks. They made a fantastic job of this session. And then lastly, I want to thank the presenters and the presenting projects and the presenters. This is a really exposed moment for them. You know, you're all sitting here absorbing this. Their shirts and their reputations and their identities are all, in a way, are all on the line as they do this. So thank you for 10 really wonderful presentations. Go down to after this, when I finish talking in a couple of minutes, go down to the ProX, and the first people you see will be their tables. And so take a minute to talk to them before you move on from that. And one thing, if you saw something you liked that isn't right for you, when you get home, if there's a venue or a presenter in your region or town for whom it would work, please pass it on. Please do that. And all the materials will be on the website in a few weeks, and you can direct them to those. And then a couple of things, just so you know this works, a couple of tips from pieces of hot news from 2 pitches last year. You may remember we had pop-up duets on this stage last year from Janice Claxton Dance from Scotland, pitched by our artistic director Janice Claxton, just here. Pop-up duets embarks on a tour this year across Scotland and the USA, with further international dates to be announced in the next couple of months. And Janice Claxton Dance is also the first Scottish dance ever to perform at Jacob's Pillow, which is a major ISPA member, or first Scottish company to perform there since 1950s, so it's a real achievement. Another thing that was pitched here last year, a Proust Sonata, which was conceived and directed by Sarah Rothenberg, produced by Da Camera Productions of Houston. That was also pitched last January. Since the pitch, and following discussions with potential presenters in the US, Canada, Europe, and Asia, a Proust Sonata has been workshopped, probably was I'm sure it was worshipped as well, at the Moody Centre for the Arts at Rice University, and it's now got a reduced set, and it's a more manageable size for touring, reduced length, and it's become a simpler project to tour. And they're back this week with the New York premiere of the performance in the city. So now is the time to go down and visit ProX. After you've stopped by the pitch, people do that first. Then lunch will be served at 12:45, and the sponsors for that are Evolve Technology. And when you're down in the ProX, do take a moment to look at Evolve Technology's extraordinary scanning equipment, devices. Then at 1:45, 1:45, we're back here for the performance by Peter Klimo and Garrett Mendelau, which highlights the work of the World Federation of International Music Competition winners, thanks to the sponsors of that performance, as all the performances this week, sponsored by Theatre Projects. Fantastic shout out for them. And then finally, don't forget to support our really inspiring fellowship program. The most important contribution any of us can ever make in our working lives is to support the next generation of performing arts leaders who are going to succeed us. And many of them are here now in the fellowship program, and they're only here because we all made contributions to that program. Please do it before you finish this week. We've set a target of $10,000 this week. Already we've reached 2, which is fantastic going. And everybody you meet, the first thing, before you talk to them about their work and how they are and the first thing you should ask them is, have you donated to the fellowship program? Thank you so much. Enjoy.